Welcome into episode 456 of the Skate Podcast. I am Brian D. Felice, joined by Bridget Prue and Scott McLaughlin with the seventh pick in a 2025 NHL entry draft. And on behalf of the Boston Bruins, Adam Sandler selects James Hagens from Boston College. Bridget and Scott, James Hagens is a Boston Bruin. Best case scenario at number 7. Unbelievable.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I thought coming in all week, that this was a possibility based on what we were hearing about James Hagens and about a possible slide. And given what the Bruins need, this was best case scenario as far as I'm concerned. There were other good plays on the board. You know, we can talk about that. Jake O'Brien was there, Brian's guy. Roger McQueen was still there for the big swing upside. But to me, I liked Hagens more than both of those players. There's a reason he was the number one guy before this past season. And, you look at it, it's like, oh, okay, he only, quote unquote, only had a point per game as an 18-year-old freshman at Boston College. Okay, fine. That wasn't Macklin Celebrini or Jack Eichel. That explains why he didn't go 1 or 2. To me, that doesn't justify him falling out of the top 5. So getting him at 7, in my mind, is just incredible value. And given the position, it is absolutely what the Bruins need.
I want to give Scott credit. For the first time ever, he had a premonition that came true. Remember a few episodes ago, he said he had a dream.
Our last
about
episode,
this?
Yeah. No, I said I had a hunch.
Oh, yeah, and he was right this time.
Usually my hunches are terrible, and those two do not come to fruition.
And Bridget, shout out to you too, because we did the first mock draft earlier this summer, and before the draft lottery. And with the 5th pick in that exercise, you had the Bruins taking Hagens. Of course, in reality, they ended up picking 7th, and he still fell to them. And Scott, you're absolutely right. Like O'Brien, McQueen, Martin, Martone, those guys, it was always, we liked those guys. But with Hagen available, it was for any of us, it was never a question. If Hagen's there, you take Hagens. I think we're all just a little bit surprised, despite the chatter the last week or two. I'm surprised it really did fall that way.
I'm still in disbelief, to be I'm just sitting here. I was telling Scott, I was like, I still can't believe that he was there at 7. And the reason why we didn't mock him in our most recent mock draft is because we thought he'd be gone. At 6 is what we thought he would go. So I had told people throughout the day that if Hagens is there at 7, it's a home run. It's would have been one that if he took someone else, I think you would have said that was overthinking it, because I think Hagens was an obvious fit. And we put out a poll on Twitter pretty much right after this happened, and I've never seen such a consensus in a positive way. I think it's at 93% of Bruins fans that answered the poll, which is over 1,000 votes already by now. 93% of people were happy with it. That's unheard of.
Which, especially because, and we've talked about this before, it's like every situation that comes up, Bruins fans just want to rip Don Sweeney right now. It doesn't even matter what it is. And so to actually have that level of support for this pick and for it to be almost universal is pretty crazy. And I mean, it was interesting the way that the board played out, because I mentioned there had been some reporting that the Flyers and Bruins had their eyes on the same 3 guys: Hagens, O'Brien, and Brady Martin. And Brady Martin ends up going 5 to Nashville, so he was off the board. Philly takes Porter Martone, who I'm guessing they probably didn't expect to be there. So they were probably, maybe they'd been thinking, okay, we'll go for one of the centers. Martone slips a little bit too. He ends up going 6, and then the Bruins have their choice of Hagens, O'Brien, McQueen, and in my mind, make the right pick. But the other interesting part of this is all the rumors all day about what the Islanders were trying to do, because they did trade Noah Dobson to the Montreal Canadiens. They got 2 more first-round picks in addition to already having the first overall pick. Now they have 16 and 17. Everyone is expecting them to try to move up to get Hagens. They really didn't hide that interest. Everyone kind of knew they wanted him. Their GM, Matthew Darsh, basically confirmed that tonight already, that they have looked into trade-up possibilities. And we talked about it. Like, the Bruins are one of those teams that kept popping up in rumors as they might move 7, they might trade down, they might trade out altogether for a roster player like a Noah Dobson or something. So when it starts falling that way, like, you're wondering, are they going to trade out? Are they going to hand Hagens to the Islanders? And maybe they Bruins end up with 16 and 17 instead and go for a quantity approach.
Oh my God, if
They
they did
didn't.
that. I think, Brian, you would have lost your mind. I think that the approval rating of the poll we would have put up would have been 93%. This is stupid if that had happened. So I know you're just happy for this day to be over because we're over all the speculation and the trading, and I think that one of your comments was, why didn't our poll have a love option? Because you love the pick. And I will say, we just finished up our press conference with Don Sweeney after the first round, and I asked him, do you think James Hagens has first line, 1C upside? And he said he's been on the first line at every level, and he expects that just natural progression, he's going to do that in the NHL as well. So this is somebody that we talked about. Was there going to be a center available in this area that had a higher ceiling than a second line guy? And I think they got someone that really has hope of being a 1C someday.
I think James Hagens is among the highest potential in this draft class. I think history is going to look back at this draft class and say, how the hell did he fall? Oh, because he put up a point per game in the NCAA on arguably one of the best teams in the nation, with 2 players who are now in the NHL at 18 years old. He was a true freshman. He may even have been 17 when the season started. I mean,
I think he turned 18 in October and November.
I mean, he's playing against, in some cases, grown men that are 21 to 24 years old.
There's some 25-year-olds
Yeah.
in NCAA.
I mean, Bentley, when they played in the regionals, Bentley's a very old team. And granted, the skill level is much different with Bentley and BC. But a lot of James Hagens' peers among these prospects, these draft-eligible prospects, they were playing against 16 to 18-year-olds in the CHL. If James Hagens is playing against those kids in the CHL, he too would have 100+ points. So, we've talked about it before. We even talked about it with Chris Peters, but NCAA D1 hockey, there might be more pure talent in the CHL, but the league is harder to play in for a young player because the physical maturity of NCAA players, and it's a more pro style game, and it's more demanding. It's tougher to score in for an 18-year-old draft prospect. So this is why you're going to start to see CHL players transfer to the NCAA in their draft year or post-draft year, because they recognize that it's a next step in development. So knocking James Hagens for a point per game player as a true freshman on one of the best teams in college hockey, in one of the best divisions in college hockey, to me never made sense. I understand comparing him to Macklin Celebrini, who was the same age and the same conference and the same league. I get that. But you know what? James Hagens is one of the few players in this draft that has true, in my opinion, 1C potential. I think it's Michael Misa. I think it's James Hagens. I think Jake O'Brien has a sniff. I think Caleb Denway is going to be a really good 2C, right? Brady Martin, I think Brady Martin is going to be a really good NHL player. The way the draft board fell wasn't too surprising in the beginning, right? You go Schaefer, Misa, Frondell, Denway. I was very surprised to see Hagens get passed over by Nashville and Philly, who both also need a future 1C, ideally with the offensive upside as Hagens. So, man, when Nashville took Martin, I was like, well, there's the Martin pick that we've kind of expected to go higher. And then when Philly had Martone there, I'm like, well, Martone he's always been projected to go top 5, but he's that winger, right? And Philly still needs that center, but they also just traded for Zegras. And I was saying on the couch watching, I'm like, oh man, please take Martone. And when they took Martone, I was like, oh, they got Hagens. And before they picked Martone, guys, and I tweeted this, if the Flyers took Hagens and the Bruins missed out on Hagens, of course Martone would have been a great consolation prize, but that would have been game 82 coming back to bite the Bruins because they were down to New Jersey by 2 goals and they forced overtime, and that overtime forcing gave them the point that put the Flyers higher. So the Bruins would have had Philly's pick essentially. So that didn't end up costing the Bruins. It's crazy how it all played out.
Yeah, and Martone had last minute meetings like just over the last week with both Philly and Boston. And, as soon as I saw that, I was like, oh, that's because they now realize there's a chance he's going to fall to 6 or 7. And doesn't mean like they're going to draft him. It means they want to make sure they've covered all their bases on him for a guy that, maybe they hadn't spent as much time with at the combine or even before that. So you wonder, like, if Philly had passed on him, he would have been an option for the Bruins too. And I really like Porter Martone. Like, I don't think that would have been a bad pick. This just fits better for the Bruins.
Hagens too,
upside wise, skill wise, what he can bring. Like, they talk about how they're a team that wants to get faster. I mean, there's maybe one other player in the draft that gets you faster than James Hagens. Like, speed is a key part of his game, and the way that he's able to make plays at a high speed. He's great with the puck in his stick. He's really good in transition. He's good at using speed deceptively too. The way he can like change speeds, fast, slow, create separation, open space up. Like, that's the stuff he does best. We can get into what he needs to work on because there are things. Don Sweeney talked about him needing, this season, if he goes back to BC, which I think is probably what will happen, but it's not 100% decided yet. He's going to have to be more of a shot first guy. Not A, for his own game. Like, that's a natural step I think his development has to take. But B, as Sweeney pointed out, like, BC is going to need that because they don't have Ryan Leonard this season. Mm-hmm. Gabe Perreault's gone. Like, they're going to need more people scoring goals, not just setting them up. So I really think going back to BC will be a good spot for him. He'll be the best player on that team. They should still be one of the best teams in the country. So, I think he could use it. And then, if he's ready, you sign him at the end of the season and maybe he gets a couple NHL games in before the season's over.
Yeah, I that's where I think we'll be. I think we'll see him in the spring, which another reason why this is such a natural fit for the Bruins is because we talked about they need or at least it would help them if they had an NHL ready guy. And he seems to be pretty close. So this is not a project. This is going to be a guy that you might see on the roster this year. Hagens mentioned he wants to start as soon as possible. When I asked Sweeney about it, he said, basically we still got to talk about it, but it sounded like he really believes that development at the collegiate level could be what's best for him this upcoming season. So just reading into some of the things he said, I think we'll see him at BC to start the year, but after his sophomore year, he's going to be pushing to come join the team. And yeah, I think that's a big asset for him as well, that he can be ready. And he's gotten a little bit bigger. He said he's up to 190 pounds, which size was a question with him. He's listed at 5'11". I think he said 5'10" and a half
at the combine. He measured in at 5'10" and a half. And I think he was 184, 185 pounds then. So even that's, 3 weeks since then. During the season at BC, I think he was, let's say, like 176. So, that's
significant.
Yeah, that's quite a bit of bulking up in less than a calendar year. And that'll be important too, because that's another thing he's going to have to adjust to. He is a little on the smaller side, although he's not as slight as like a Victor Eklund, who went, in the teens. Like, he does have some muscle, and clearly if he's up to 190, has put on even more. And like, he can battle. So listen, if you're going to be a top guy, like, you're going to have to win battles. It's the question when everyone talks about, kind of smaller player, meaning like 5'11" or under, be a true number one center? Can they play in every situation? Can they win the defensive zone battles that a number one center who gets tougher assignments can handle? Can he kill penalties? Like, all that stuff, that's going to require some strength. Can he get inside? Can he score around the net in the NHL? Requires strength. So that's encouraging that he's already making progress, and now next season see him play at that weight with some added mass. And, hopefully, again, at the college level, you're playing against older, bigger players, like, win even more battles than he did this year.
Can I add two other things I think he needs to work on? Sorry, Brian. The main knock on him was that he needs to be more of the driver of a line. And now that he's going to be at BC with Leonard and Perreault leaving, he's going to have to learn how to drive a line. Like, that is going to be his role for BC. So I guess he'll have to find a way. And hopefully by being put into the fire like that and leaned on like that, he learns just from getting that experience. And the other thing that he needs to work on, his face-off, at the face-off dot, his numbers were not great in college. I believe he was under 50%. I know he was about 46% on draws. So that's definitely an area of his game he can work on. But the good news is, great power play guy. And the Bruins desperately need that as well.
Yeah, I mean, he's an elite skater. He's going to be elite in transition. His edge work is as good as it gets, and his vision, his playmaking, it's all there. So his skill set, his raw skill set, you really just can't teach it. One thing I wanted to mention too regarding his size, because it's brought up a lot. Oh, he's undersized. And Jack Hughes' name kind of gets brought up as an NHL comparable. And I just want to say this: they might, if you Google them, they might both be 5'11", Jack Hughes and James Hagens. James Hagens has a thicker build than a Jack Hughes. You see him, tonight he's got the quintessential tree trunk, hockey player, legs and build. He's a broad kid. And I mean, truly, like, not being funny, but you see Jack Hughes in a suit, and he's still a Slim Jim, and he's been in the league for 6 years. So Hagens does have a bit of a stockier build, is my point. And I think that's worth mentioning when people talk about his size. And he's also somebody who competes in one-on-one battles, and he is ferocious on the forecheck and angling off defenders on the forecheck and taking away time and space. So I think he's going to play bigger than his size. And, one question I have for you guys is, if James Hagens and the Bruins were to decide that he's going to go pro in his first year and not go back to Chestnut Hill next season, which I think is the likely scenario, that he will go back to BC for his sophomore year, play the full campaign, and then go from there. But if they were to make a decision otherwise, to do right by BC, when do you think that decision would have to come so that they can prepare for a vacancy at their number one center position?
Honestly, it might come this week, either during or at the end of development camp, because you get a lot of time with these players in the building. Development camp is only 4 days, but it's 4 days of really focused, intensive work. It's not a huge group. This isn't rookie camp or training camp. It's basically like a regular roster of players that are going to be there. So there's off-ice training, there's meetings on nutrition and what to work on, and summer training and all this stuff. And really, one of the most useful things about development camp is every player leaves there with kind of their plan for the rest of the summer and the upcoming season. And it's like really the Bruins' chance to let all these kids know, like, hey, this is what we're looking for. So there's a good chance that by the end of this week coming up, the Bruins and Hagens are both going to have an idea of, like, okay, this is what the next several months and next season looks like. So I would guess it'll probably be decided within this next week. And they might even tell us the answer by the end of development camp.
And so, we've spent a lot of time, and we're going to keep this one brief because it's late and you guys have to get home still. But Almost 12:30. Yeah. But we've spent a lot of time without knowing the name attached to the Bruins draft pick this year. So it's been very prospective. Maybe the guy is NHL ready in September. Maybe he's 2 or 3 years away, whatever. It seems like with regards to their 2025 draft pick being able to help the current core, it really does seem like Hagens should be he should get NHL games within a calendar year from now. Like he should be playing NHL games most likely by late March of 2026, right? So he's gonna be an imminent part of the Bruins present, which if that's in September or October, rather.
Right after BU ends BC season,
yeah, exactly.
You know,
exactly.
I had us muted just in case there was background noise, and he quickly tapped unmute to just interject that. He was like, wait, no, I got something to say.
But like he's around the corner either way, whether he's in the lineup in October, which may be more unlikely, but certainly like this time next year, like in the offseason, he'll be part of the Bruins plans going forward in the next full season. So either way, I would have been happy with. I've talked myself into all these prospects in a Bruins jersey. So I've envisioned Martone and O'Brien and Brady Martin and Denwye and most everybody besides Schaefer and Misa, because I just never found them to be realistic. And I would have been very happy with any one of them. But with Hagens in particular, he's the only one where I could say like I definitely think that they should have a one center of the future internally. And I couldn't say that necessarily about the other guys. I could have hoped for it, but this is the best case scenario for the Bruins out of tonight. And wow, like just think back to like mid-season. James Hagens is the projected #1 overall pick. Think back to World Juniors. He's a projected #1 overall pick. And the Bruins are like in the middle of the standings in the playoff picture. Like you never would have thought that this marriage was possible. And now, and then the Bruins go to 5th and then Hagens falls to 7th. It's like, what?
I did remember one time in the middle of the season, I tried to sell you on Hagens, Brian. Remember, we had a conversation about it.
Yeah, I texted you guys during the Bean Pot. I said, would you package Patra and Laura to move up to move up to the lottery?
It was a conversation about like finding a way to move up, or we did not think they were going to fall that far to actually naturally get James Hagens. But maybe this was, a blessing somehow that they were able to go in the draft and potentially find, a face that could be at the head of the franchise for a while. And also maybe thank guys like Ryan Leonard for having such a great season and maybe overshadowing Hagens' season a little bit by just being on Hobie watch and, some of the things that happened over there.
Well, and also, let me say this, as the person who was most anti-tanking, like losing as many games as possible down the stretch, didn't really care that they won the last or went to overtime in that last game. I said sometimes you get good karma out of that.
I forgot your karma.
I mean, you're right, Scott.
Ended up with like the bad lottery luck.
Yep.
But they still get the guy that, quite frankly, I would have taken at 4, maybe 3. Like
I was just gonna ask you that, Scott. If the Bruins had the first overall pick this year, like where would you have been in your? It would have been like Schaefer, Misa, and then like Hagens, like, and they got him at 7. At least that's how I would have felt. I mean, But
yeah, I tweeted Friday morning. This was back in April, end of April. I did like Bruins big board, essentially ranking guys in the order I think the Bruins should have prioritized them. And my top 7 was still the same 2 months later. Like I actually ended up with the same top 7, and I had Hagens 4th. So there you go. Like I would have taken him 3 picks higher than this.
Do you think there could be an argument made that this draft, especially in the top 10, at times was an example of teams going for fit over best available? Because I'm sorry, but like you look at Utah, for example, and taking Denwye, and I feel like if they didn't have Logan Cooley, I don't know if they're taking Denwye. They maybe are taking James Hagens. So I do think fit plays a role with these teams. I really do. People say, no, I'll take best available. I think it's best available for what your team roster looks like. Like I'm telling you, I think Hagens didn't fall because of his ceiling. I think he fell because he didn't fit the specific needs of some of the teams in front of Boston.
Yeah, I think like Chicago and Utah, I think weren't going to take him because they already have a 1C who's a little on the smaller side. You mentioned Cooley, also Connor Bedard in Chicago. Like, so I kind of get that. I don't really know why Nashville and Philly weren't as high, or at least didn't take them. But this could also just be another case of NHL teams underestimating quote unquote smaller players. And again, like Hagens isn't even. He's 5'11" or 5'10" and a half or whatever. But like generally that kind of drop, the bigger drops are reserved for like 5'8", 5'9" guys, right? Like they're the ones who dropped in the second round, like a Lane Hudson or a Cole Hudson, where like a year later, everyone's like, he probably should have gone in the first round. It's like, yeah, duh. Like, look at the talent. Like, Hagens obviously didn't slide that far, but there's absolutely a chance that if he has a great season at BC this year, like 1 year in, there's going to be teams going, that James Hagens looks really good. Like
people act like he has the height stature of Bedard or like Braden Point. It's like there's not much of a difference between 5'11" and 6 feet. Like it's not like he's 5'7" out there. I mean, I think it's overblown, to be honest with you guys. But
yeah, I think that they got pretty lucky. That's my feeling, is that this shook out exactly as they wanted to. They will never say that because I think Sweeney's comment on it was something like, well, we can't control what happens before us. And he didn't really want to say like what he, was, if he felt like he was lucky there. But that it was, I think the pick should have been in like immediately. But there was a little bit of a buffering issue.
I was getting so nervous how it was at a lot of teams, their pick was in with like a minute or two left. The Bruins went down to 10. I was like, what the fuck? But also like, even when it comes to the Flyers taking Martone, Scott, you mentioned they may have been surprised that he was there and they just took him. I mean, do you think the trade for Trevor Zegras also altered Philly's perspective? They're like, okay, we got Zegras now. He's kind of that more undersized, skilled center. Like maybe. So
could have changed it, definitely. Because I think we mock like. No, we did mock after he went there, but I think that definitely changes what their system is down the middle. So I guess it probably at least affected it a little bit. Hey, whatever it was enough for Boston to get Hagens. I think we got to go.
We got to go.
We got to wrap it up because
12:40 and they get some drives back to Billerica and Attleboro.
They're going to kick us out of here.
Yeah. All right. Thank you all very much for listening. Enjoy your weekend, and we'll talk to you guys early next week. Hey, guys. Thanks for watching the Skate Podcast. If you want to see more of our videos, visit our playlist.
Not in front of a screen? You can listen to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Don't forget to follow us on social media. And if you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to give us a thumbs up, subscribe to our channel, and leave a comment.